hero is no braver than an ordinary man, but he is brave 5 minutes longer. When you think of rugby heroes, there are hundreds you can name in just a few seconds. Each year you find someone else scoring a winning try or putting through the last-minute drop goal that etches their name in the history books. These are some of the legends of the Rugby World Cup finals that will never be forgotten. Number 9. John Kirwan and Grant Fox, 1987 Rugby World Cup. The first edition of the Rugby World Cup was bound to be exciting. France met the hosts New Zealand in the final, whilst it became a blowout and the All Blacks defeated the men from Paris by 29 points to 9. It was All Black winger John Kirwan and fly half Grant Fox who stepped up. Kirwan was a force to be reckoned with throughout the tournament, scoring in virtually every game he played. The winger scored a sensational try during the final, but it was the boot of Grant Fox that sealed the game, with a drop goal and numerous penalty goals. Both are still seen as All Black legends more than 30 years later. Number 8. Stephen Larkham and Matthew Burke, 1999 Rugby World Cup. Hosted at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, it was the Wallabies who made it to the finals against a resilient French team that knocked off the All Blacks. In front of a 72,000-strong crowd, a close game turned into a beating for the French. Thanks to the legendary Stephen Larkham setting up 2 tries with his open field play, the Wallabies found themselves ahead by a massive margin. Was it not for the boot of fullback Matthew Burke keeping a cool head, the game would have been closer. Burke slotted 7 penalties and converted both tries to have a 100% kicking record, in what turned out to be a massive victory for the Wallabies. But let's not forget the legend himself, John Eales, who led the team through the tough pool stages and hoisted the trophy. Number 7. Dan Carter and Richie McCaw, 2015 Rugby World Cup. Going into the finals as the defending champions has been done before, but no one manages to convert. The All Blacks had the opportunity to finally break this and become 2-time Rugby World Cup champions. In a game that was much closer on the field than the final scoreline suggests, it was All Black fly half Daniel Carter who made the difference. Thanks to a drop goal, he put the game out of reach for the Wallabies in the final few minutes, before Barrett popped over to seal it. Was it not for All Black skipper Richie McCaw, very few believe that the All Blacks would have the composure to finish as back-to-back champions. What a send-off game for 2 greats of the game, calling it time on their careers. Number 6. Lukhanyo Am and Duane Vermeulen, 2019 Rugby World Cup. The 2019 Rugby World Cup saw a rematch of the 2007 Rugby World Cup. A Springbok team under the leadership of Rassie Erasmus managed to overcome a bruised English side after they went to war against the All Blacks. In what seemed to be a close game, it was Springbok centre Lukhanyo Am who made the biggest difference on the field. While setting up Mapimpi for what seemed like the try that broke the English comeback, he also played a pivotal role throughout the competition. Duane Vermeulen kept a cool head marshalling his troops and getting his message across. Thanks to these heroes, and under the leadership of Siya Kolisi, the Springboks became 3-time Rugby World Cup champions. Number 5. Danny Rossouw and Percy Montgomery, 2007 Rugby World Cup. In what proved to be a penalty fest of Jonny Wilkinson and Percy Montgomery, one moment defined the 2007 Rugby World Cup. After what seemed to be a try, it was Springboks number 8 Danny Rossouw's tackle on English winger Mark Cueto, which slipped his foot in touch and was later ruled not to be a try that won the game. However, the Springboks would have been lost had it not been for fullback Percy Montgomery's near-flawless kicking. After slotting 5 penalties, the game was put out of reach for a last-minute English comeback, sealing the second Webb Ellis Trophy for the Springboks in a tense game. Number 4. Michael Lynagh and Tony Daley, 1991 Rugby World Cup. Many of you might not have been born when the 1991 Rugby World Cup was played at Twickenham. England and Australia had close calls in the games leading up to the final, and it seemed like the game would be won off the boot. It was a driving maul try from prop forward Tony Daley that set up the Wallabies for a historic win. Thanks to a flawless kicking performance from arguably the best fly half in the world at the time, Michael Lynagh, the Wallabies snatched victory. The Wallabies lifted their first Webb Ellis trophy under the guidance of Wallaby legend Nick Farr-Jones. But the 3 World Cups on our list will be remembered forever, and these heroes did what seemed impossible at the time. Number 3. Joel Stransky and Deuce van der Westhausen, 1995 Rugby World Cup. After years of international sanctions, the Springboks hosted and participated in their first ever Rugby World Cup. Unknown players to the rest of the world had to step up from their average daily jobs to compete against the best in the world. It was early in the game when Jonah Lomu broke the line. With an almost open line, Springbok scrum half Deuce van der Westhausen was about to become the next Mike Catt, and thanks to his resilience, he brought down the All Black monster. This set up an extra time moment that would define World Cups forever. With mere minutes left on the clock, it was a pass from van der Westhausen to Stransky that set the crowd alight. Stransky lined up a drop goal that sailed through the posts, leaving the All Blacks out of time to find a response. Who can forget the moment South African President Nelson Mandela handed the trophy to Springbok captain Francois Pienaar in front of a sold-out Ellis Park Stadium of 60,000 strong. Number 2. Tony Woodcock and Stephen Donald, 2011 Rugby World Cup. In what was to be the first World Cup in more than 20 years to be hosted in New Zealand, it was the All Blacks who were the clear favourites. After knocking off France early in the pool stages, the two teams met in the final. Unfortunately for the All Blacks, injuries to Dan Carter and Aaron Cruden left them without a fly half and kicker. Fortunately, Stephen Donald could cancel his fishing trip and boot up for the final. A few minutes into the game, it was All Blacks prop Tony Woodcock sliding through an open line to score the first try for the All Blacks. But Donald managed to nail a penalty from about 40 yards out, which sealed a historic 8-7 victory for the All Blacks. We cannot forget the legendary All Black skipper Richie McCaw, who later revealed that he played the final with what is said to be a broken ankle and didn't miss a second of the action. Number 1. Jonny Wilkinson and Jason Robinson, 2003 Rugby World Cup. In what is considered to this day to be one of the best Rugby World Cup games ever, England overcame a strong Wallaby side. After an early try to the Wallabies, England had to rally. Thanks to a break from Wilkinson, Robinson was set up to score one of the most historic tries of the Rugby World Cup. But with the scores tied, the game was only the second Rugby World Cup final to go to extra time. It was in the 100th minute that a young Matt Dawson set up Wilkinson for the game-winning drop goal. Since Wilkinson is left-footed, bad positioning forced him to do what very few players have ever done, and risk a drop goal on his weaker foot in a World Cup final. Fortunately, it went sailing through the middle of the posts and won the game in the dying moments. The Rugby World Cup is a time when heroes are made and legends of the game are born. The 2023 Rugby World Cup in France is just around the corner. But who will be the next hero to stand tall with the Webb Ellis Trophy? Will it be an old legend like Johnny Sexton or Michael Hooper? Or what about a new star like Antoine Dupont, who rises to the occasion?